So session 6 of Why Jesus. And yesterday we looked at how God had established the tabernacle so that he could live among his people and they could live as a holy nation. Whenever the cloud of God's presence rested over the tabernacle, they stayed. And then when it lifted and moved, they would pack up the camp and move on to where the cloud settled next. And that way, God led them through the desert and to the promised land. But the journey, of course, wasn't all easy going. People complained numerous times, and at one time a group even rebelled against Moses and Aaron, and God had to deal quite harshly with them. But eventually they got to the place where they were to take over the land that Abraham had been promised. Now in Deuteronomy 7, we read of the warning to these people. God said to them, he would drive out the inhabitants of the land, but they were not to make any treaties with those inhabitants, and they were not to intermarry, because he said foreign wives or husbands would lead the children astray to worship other gods. They were also commanded to break down the altars and burn all the idols of the peoples of that area. And he says, for this reason, for you are a people holy to your God. The Lord your God has chosen you out of all the peoples on the face of the earth to be his people, his treasured possession. Now we know they were able to conquer the land that God gave them, and he gave them victory over larger and more powerful nations. We read in Joshua 5 how the Canaanite kings, when they heard how the Jordan River had been dried up and the people able to cross, it says, their hearts melted in fear and they no longer had the courage to face the Israelites. So the surrounding nations saw the power of God at work and they feared the Israelites. When they settled, Joshua gathered the tribes at Shechem, where he built an altar, and then he reminded them of all God had done, and he gave them a potted history from the time Abraham left Ur, time they were slaves in Egypt, how God brought them out of Egypt and brought them to where they were now, and the amazing acts along the way. And then he challenged them to be faithful to God. And he says this, choose for yourselves this day whom you will serve, whether it's the gods of your ancestors beyond the Euphrates, the gods of the people here. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. And the people promised, we too will serve the Lord, because he is our God. And so Joshua made a covenant with them. He read out all the decrees that Moses had been given. It's the 10 Commandments plus a whole lot of the other decrees. And he set up a large stone as witness to this agreement. Now he questioned the people many times, will you really serve the Lord? And they said, yes, yes, we will. So it sounds like an amazing milestone in their history, but it would seem like the climax is actually just the beginning, because there's a long history now of their living in the land of Israel before the coming of Jesus. And the question is, how well did they do living as God's holy people? How well did they do in displaying him to the world? The answer is not very well. And I guess it raises a question for us. When they entered the promised land, they said they would serve God. They promised, and when really pressed, they promised. And yet they fell away. And it raises the question for us, how many times have we made a real commitment to God and found ourselves falling away?
will that I am free, for it's only your will that I am free. Jesus, oh for Jesus, all I am and never hope to be. All of my ambitions, hopes and plans, I surrender into your hands. All of my ambitions, hopes and plans, I surrender